Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Power Rangers and technically Tommy Oliver episodes. 2 out of the 3, but still Tommy Oliver episodes anyways. So, we first up have me go on and talk about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers episode called Z-Waves. That is to be from Season 2, Episode 26. And I was actually really just surprised that I found this, but then all of a sudden I saw like a bunch of Power Rangers just kind of doing like this in the thumbnail where they're just like, "Hail Lord Zed," and I was like, what? Somebody's doing some zombie walking. I gotta see what's going on here. And so all of a sudden it seems we have this monster called Beamcaster that is to be kind of this like radio personality, and I was like, okay, like you have my interest, show. And how are you gonna make this goofy at some points with the whole explosion things? Like that was just kind of very weird and very goofy. But once you kind of get past that, you're just like, you know what, like I think I can be fine with the rest of the show, and I can like what's going on here. We still have to go on, and in this part of this episode, we have to talk about the peace conference and just wearing every episode down, figuring out a way to edit out characters and put Adam, Rocky, and Aisha in their place. We, of course, have the 3 characters that I just named going on and doing a triathlon in this episode. So, yeah, so there's a lot of interesting choices here, and I think they all pay out in the end, and a lot of people could probably think otherwise. But still, I thought that this episode was really interesting and really fun. And also, we have Billy again, who's building another device to try and help the Rangers in some situation, which, of course, is to make them seemingly zombified. Hail Lord Zed. So, yeah, I thought that this was a surprisingly solid, good episode. I thumbed it up so hard this day. So now going on and going into Power Rangers Zeo. So I finally had to go on and do something from Power Rangers Zeo that was to cover the Gold Power Rangers Zeo Ranger, because of course it seemed like I had consistently done other things. So I was like, well, why can't I just go on and finally do the first episode that the Gold Ranger was a thing? And man, does the Gold Ranger look cool. Just like that shield that the Gold Ranger has looks like the best like Power Ranger shield ever. It might have some like goofy designs and all that stuff, but still, it's the coolest shield ever. And there's been some goofy ones, but yeah, like that one looked pretty awesome. But yeah, so we have the Gold Ranger. He's coming in, and he's not Jason quite yet. And we, of course, have to build suspicion that Billy could also be the Gold Ranger, because if Billy seems to disappear while the Gold Ranger is on screen, and Istanbul might be in this direction, then maybe Billy can go on and have at some point himself share a screen with the Gold Zeo Ranger. Because guess what happens? Billy is to not be the Gold Ranger, because they just consistently drop the ball on, like, well, why couldn't Billy have just been the Gold Ranger? But again, it seems that we go on to this show and we figure out a way to eventually write Billy off, sadly enough. So we really just have this be a runaround mission for the Rangers. We seem to have King Mondo, who of course is trying to plan this like orchestrated Cogs and Wolfsbane kind of attack, but it seems like the Power Rangers knows what's going on because they're kind of morphed and they're going through this mission just trying to think and find something, but they're not quite sure what it is. So come to find out, the Power Rangers seemingly just get outnumbered in this episode, and I'm like, well, like, are they just having an unusual number of cogs compared to all the other times? And so we have it where eventually a sixth ranger is to be called, and we even have Billy who goes on and states, is like, well, like, yeah, there used to be six, and Tommy just puts his shoulder on Billy. It's like, hey man, it's fine. Like, at some point we're gonna get a sixth one in this episode. It's cool. So we then go on into the Power Rangers Turbo episode, and the Power Rangers Zeo episode, definitely a solid okay, or no, a solid good episode. A lot of fighting, a lot of action, good stuff going on. And so yeah, so solid good, as well as the other Mighty Morphin episode. Just overall, I think, like, I would go on and call the Power Rangers Turbo episode possibly a solid okay, simply because it feels like they almost like write out certain characters. So we're bringing it back to, I guess, the origin of the character Nico within this Power Rangers Turbo episode. If I was to have gone on and watched the first episode of the Phantom Ranger, now and seen Nico, now all of a sudden, oddly enough, we have a Power Rangers Turbo episode that ends up showcasing him for the first time and having Justin go on and meet this kid and just want to play soccer. And we have, it seems that Divatox is to have this teleportation device, and she ends up getting teleported and forgets who she is. So we end up having the Blue Sentinel rolling in and trying to go on and, or the Blue, is it the Blue Sentinel? The Blue Centaurian, my bad, I'm sorry. The Blue Centaurian. That is to roll in and try to help out the Rangers, as it seems that the Rangers are having issues by being baked in a pizza. And so a lot about this was not that bad. I don't know what Selwyn Ward was going on and complaining about this episode in Forever Red, because there are worse Power Rangers Turbo episodes. They exist out there. Yeah, there's goofy ideas to be had here, but, like, there are worse Power Rangers Turbo episodes. There really is. There are probably worse Power Rangers episodes, period, and I don't think that this one is that bad. So, with that said, like, plus also you have a guy that looks like a mushroom head, and he's tossing pizzas at people. Isn't that just what, like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles does, like, all the time? Like, look at, like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, where we have, like, Michelangelo, who's, like, Frisbee, and he tosses the pizza, and smacks the guy in the back of the head, and he's just like, whoa, my mistake. And then they kind of just walk off. So, like, we have that being done in other places, but now, like, we're seeing it here in Power Rangers, and we're just like, no. Like, I can't accept having a monster be flinging pizza at people. Oh, no. I cannot see that happening in a Power Rangers episode. But yeah, so there, like, I will admit there is some goofy things going on with this Power Rangers Turbo episode, But again, for the life of me, I would not state that it is to not be anything less than a solid okay episode. Solid okay. So yeah, at the end of the day, I still liked it. And other people may not. I don't care. So, with that said, uh, we have Bulk and Skull that I guess are working in a pizza joint because I guess they had given up on being police officers, or I guess they might be moonlighting and kind of doing this pizza job. Considering I don't know how late in the game it is for this episode compared to the Phantom episode, the Phantom Ranger. So yeah, putting things together here. But I'm assuming since Justin is to meet Nico, so I guess it's earlier on and so on and so. Because I'm thinking like, don't Bulk and Skull still have their like security job where they go on and watch all these items in the Phantom Ranger show? So why is it that they're doing this pizza job? I don't know. I'm drawing at straws here. So let's go on and let's double five this bad boy up because I think it's about that time yet again to of course go into what is to be usually spoiler time. It's about that timing it is. Spoil this episodes. So let's go into this because it's about that time. So in the beginning of this episode, which of course is the Power Rangers Mighty Morphin, and it's Z Waves, we have Adam, Rocky, and Aisha that are going on to do the Stone Canyon Triathlon. We, of course, have the reporter that is going on and explaining what a triathlon is, that it's a multi-thing event where you would go on and swim, then you would bike, then you would run the rest of the way to the finish line. So, we have, of course, Kim, Tommy, and Billy that are all taking Adam and Rocky and Aisha's kind of shirts, and they're all, of course, going on into the pool and swimming. So, as the guys go on to leave, we have Tommy, Kimberly, and Billy who are talking about the peace conference, and oh no, like, if we talk about this for the 18th umpteenth time, like, everybody's gonna be speculating who's going to leave the Power Rangers, because if anybody has never gone on and seen anything but Mighty Morphin, like, they will probably know exactly who leaves the show, but at some points they might come back when we get to Power Rangers Zeo, so maybe one of them, because other events were to tell us that Cosmic Fury. Anyways, so we have them talk about peace conferences. They're saying, well, like, what if Billy was to leave the show? Like, what would we do? And Billy's like, I'm gonna be here till frickin' Zeo. Don't worry about it. So, we go on to, of course, have Zed, who's again talking with Goldar for the 80th time. Tell me! God, still that one episode where Goldar is just like, tell me! I still just can't get it out of my brain. So, we of course have Zed, who is spouting out about mind controlling Z waves, and he wants to go on and send out the Beamcaster. So, we have Alpha that goes on and gets an alert at the command center that this monster is getting sent out, Beamcaster. And so we have, of course, Adam, Rocky, and Aisha that are at like the bike part of the triathlon. And so we have Jason, we have Zach, we have Trini, who I guess are all scuba diving. That's why they're away. And they are to all of a sudden get a call from Zordon that they need to urgently face off against the Beamcaster. So we have these three Rangers that go on to quickly morph and find that they are to quickly succumb to the Beamcaster's cast upon them to then have them turn into Hail Zed, Hail's zombies, Hail zombies. That's who they end up becoming, zombies. So we then have Tommy, Billy, and Kimberly that are going to find themselves surrounded by putties, smothered in putty. So as we have the three Rangers going on and fighting against these Z putties, we have Adam, Aisha, and Rocky that go on to assist the Rangers and try to fight off these putties. And so as we go on in the Power Rangers with the addition of these three other strangers, not Rangers, they're strangers, we come to find out that they're, of course, having a really good team. We have, after they go on and take down all the putties, Tommy is just like, well, hey, like I'm sorry that you guys aren't going to win this triathlon. And Rocky's like, no, like, it was a really good decision, or it was the only real decision here. And so, like, they also are just really focused on, like, well, hey, it's not about being first, it's just finishing. And it's like, okay, all right, like, seems like these characters, like, have, like, just a good mindset, good for them. So we have Tommy, Billy, and Kimberly going to the command center to find out about Beamcaster and his baton. And so Zordon is explaining this monster to the Rangers, and we have Tommy that makes a clear consensus of, like, hey, Billy, like, you're a guy that just loves to make devices. How about you go on and possibly make a device that can reverse the Z waves, and, like, just kind of hopefully you can come up with it. You probably won't have time to test it because Tommy's going to go on and tell you, like, no, we just don't have time. But still. So we then go to Bulk and Skull, who are to then realize what is going on, and they end up also getting suckered in to becoming zombie waved. And we, of course, have them going on to, of course, Hail Dread, Hail Red, Hail what he said. Hail what she said. What? That's what she said. What? So, we have also the Beamcaster that goes to make his way to the triathlon, and he then is starting to infect certain judges, certain audiences that are kind of watching on, like, hoping that these people are gonna come out of this and like, yeah, like, this race, this triathlon, it's amazing, right? So, and everybody's going on to hail that Zed. They're going on their way. So Billy is to want to test the device, but Tommy says we can't wait. So we have the Rangers that all go on to morph and get out there. And what ends up happening is we have Tommy that separates from Billy and Kimberly. Billy, it seems, is to kind of get crowded by all these people, and he drops the device. And Billy is stating, like, oh my god, people are probably going to step on the device. They're going to break it. They're going to hurt it. They're going to crush it. So we all of a sudden get Billy and Kimberly that just get, like, overrun by people. And Tommy can't go on and just, like swing kick anybody this time around. So he's just like, no, I can't go on and do this because it's not right. Like, these people, like, don't know what they're doing. And it's kind of like the Power Rangers Super Dino Charge episode that I had reviewed, where the Power Rangers had all turned into zombies, but Coda, and then we had like this robot zombie or this robot caveman that was to try and help get all these kind of like zombie people like out of the way. It was a very weird and goofy episode, but still to this day I was like, but the Power Rangers were zombies. So are these, technically. So we have Beamcaster that goes on to infect both Billy and Kimberly. It's like, okay, well, like, it's all left to Tommy now. Like, Tommy's gonna go on and have to just, like, get this device and reverse everybody. It's all going to work out. Come to find out, yeah, not so much. But so, we have Tommy who's the only one left. And so now we have Beamcaster, who switches it up from his one weapon that he really has to easily just convert people. And instead, we have the Beamcaster just goes on and uses explosives against Tommy for whatever goofy reason. And these are very weird, goofy explosives. Like, we had the Beamcaster that's like, well, hey, I have this apple that is an explosive. Here you go. And Tommy's like, what the heck? And like, pah! And so we all of a sudden have like Beamcaster like, hey, here's this explosive it's a frog. Here you go, pah! And so here's a stick of dynamite because we just stopped being creative X number of scenes ago. Bam! And so Tommy is flinging and flopping and flying everywhere because of all these explosives. And then the Dreamcaster just goes on and is to finally just convert Tommy into Zombie Tommy. And so now he's like, hail Lord Zed, everybody. Hail him. Hail. So we're like, okay, like everybody's converted. The world's gonna end. It's gonna explode. And come to find out, we have Rocky, Aisha, and we have Adam that have not been corrupted by Beamcaster because triathlon. And so they end up kind of, oddly enough, finding the device that Billy had, and somebody probably stepped and farted on it. So they find the broken device, and so we have Alpha and we have Zordon that teleports these three Rangers that will become them, and somewhere down the road, power transfer is coming up anytime now. So we come to find out when Aisha is to look at this device, she states that she had gone on to work at this radio station. And I guess at a radio station, they have a bunch of wires for her to go on and adjust and fix and whatever. So, like, I guess she was to somehow just, like, be able to fix this device and make it work. So, we go on to have the three of these characters all go on and have this device go on to the viewing globe, and the viewing globe had all of the Rangers all in this one scene together, luckily, right? What if they couldn't figure out how to fit it all in the viewing globe? So, like, Rocky and Aisha are just shaking this device, and like, yeah, it's working, I think it is, I don't know. Like, this Billy invented this, like, if we mess up, we could just blame Billy. So they're trying to really work on this device, and you can just tell they're, like, shaking. So the device works, and the Rangers come back to normal, and you would have thought then the Beamcaster would have just been like, well, I'm just going to convert them again. See what Rocky and Adam and Aisha does then, huh? But so we have the Power Rangers that go back to normal, and maybe they end up getting an immunity to a Beamcaster's charm. So we then have the Rangers that completely and or quickly go on to combine their weapons together to put together the power blaster, and they fire upon this villain, and we find out that that is the way to definitively kill this monster instead of Megazording it up this week. So we then go on to see Bulk and Skull, who are no longer hailing Lord Zed, and we of course have Lord Zed, who ends up banging his hand against this thing, and he's like, well, next time I'll get you, Rangers, next time, ha! That sounded more like Alpha than Zed, but still. Next time, Rangers, next time! I'll get you! I'll get you for sure next time! Anyways, so we go on to, of course, like, hey, like, there's a triathlon going on, everybody. So we have Tommy, Billy, and Kimberly that are all at the finish line of this triathlon. And we see that, of course, Adam, Aisha, and Rocky don't go on and win the triathlon. They kind of just go on and just finish. And so we have the Rangers going on and just like, well, hey, like that was the best decision that we had ever made to go on and help you guys out in our lives. And so, yeah, like, come to find out, Aisha, Adam, and had talked about like the early goings of them when they were like first getting the show, and not only would they eventually have to like swap suits with Jason, Rocky, and Trini and just kind of wear the same suits, but it seems that Johnny Young Bosch was kind of struggling from these like first early days of them like needing to get food. And so it seemed that Aisha was to kind of fund Johnny until he could get money for food, because he was just kind of like living on like very small means. And so we of course had Adam and Aisha that were kind of talking one day, and so Aisha was saying to, or Aisha's character and Adam was like, well, hey, like, do you want some food? And Adam's like, well, yeah, of course I do. And so, yeah, so, like, come to find out, it's like, oh, yeah, like, I guess, like, some people just, like, yeah, they didn't realize, like, how, like, some people are just kind of, like, they're just scraping by, hoping that the show is going to work out. And, yeah, because some people just don't know. Or some people just don't know one another all that well. So, like, yeah, like, it is what it is. But let's go on to the Power Rangers Zeo episode. Episode 27, The Power of Gold. So, we have at first both Tommy and Adam that are kind of going on and doing all these goofy flipping things. And we, of course, have, like, Adam and Tommy that are like, hey, Rocky, do you see anything? And so we go on to have like Sprocket, King Mondo, Queen Machina, and they're all kind of talking about this plan and how it's like seemingly going well, and that like Clank is going on and like complimenting Mondo, but they're all just kind of watching on and just kind of seeing like how the Rangers are going to fall into their trap. So let me pause there for a second. All right, so King Mondo, Sprocket, Queen Machina, everybody just kind of getting the popcorn, just kind of just waiting and seeing when the Power Rangers are going to go on and figure things out, or when things are going to come falling down on them. This moment kind of reminds me when the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were to be at April's place, and then all of a sudden we would have all the like the foot soldiers that come just flying in, and we end up, of course, getting the lumberjack joke. I guess these guys aren't lumberjacks. No joke! The only thing that would be safe would be the trees. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen that movie. That's the only line I probably remember from that movie. Besides the whole Jose Canseco bat telling me you didn't pay money for this. So it's a cigarette. Anyways, so we have pink, blue, and yellow rangers, and they're going on and trying to look around and see if they spot anything. And Billy is to alert them that there's something that is obviously to be right over their position. And so the Rangers are like, hey man, like, we don't see anything. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So we have Mondo that's like, hey man, like, come on, like, let's send the cogs out. Let's do this. So Billy ends up alerting the Rangers. It's like, hey, like, above you in the trees, like, come on guys, like, if only I was out there saving you. So we not only go on and we have Mondo, who is to call forth Wolfson and send him out along with the cogs. If there isn't enough cogs, we also have a monster in the mix, so that's even worse. We go on to have the Rangers that are starting to use their weapons. We have Rocky that tries to use his power axes. They're kind of these kind of goofy looking axes. They're very weird looking, but they're still axes for some goofy reason. We then also have Kat that goes on to use her Zeo power disc, the thing that when of course you go into Power Rangers Legacy Wars, like, it ends up kind of just bashing through people, and it's awesome. That character, like, got me through so many wins on that game, simply because you would just kind of consistently just have her bash through people. It was sweet. But yeah, but like, to go on, like, there were also in that game, like, so many characters that you would think would be really sweet, and like, yeah, this character is going to be really great, and then they would just not turn out that way. So you're just like, oh, well, that's disappointing. The one character that I would have wanted to play as just doesn't have a significant power, or doesn't have anything that is to be significant enough to really work for me. So, like, I just go on and kind of find these kind of common Rangers that technically work a lot. But so we also have now Pink, Blue, and Yellow Ranger all going on to use the advanced Zeo laser pistol, and they of course try to attack Wolfsbane, and doesn't quite pan out. So we all of a sudden have Billy, who is trying to go on and call the Rangers via the power chamber, because this is Zeo time period, and he's all of a sudden getting this massive interference, like, it's like, Billy's like, what the is that? What the Zord, or Demetria, or no, you're Zordon, it's Zeo, okay. I could still call you Zordon. Demetria is the other show. So we have space interference, deep space interference, because come to find out, we were having pure Midas come into Earth's atmosphere, and it even goes on to affect Mondo's instruments and Mondo's like machines. So Mondo is like, well, hey, we gotta go on, and we gotta call the cogs, and Wolfsbane, we gotta call them back, or otherwise they may start to malfunction. And so, like, because we have both Clank and Mondo that are realizing that Pyramidas is coming in. Yeah. Like, God, the Gold Ranger looks so cool. Like, I was surprised how much that I would go on and just overall like what they do with the Gold Ranger, even though at some points you just see this like kind of black squiggly blur kind of attack things, and I'm just like, okay, that's dumb. I could care less about that. But then we also go on and do that in other seasons where we go on and have this kind of like white ball of light that goes on and attacks people, and that ends up being the Omega Ranger. And I'm like, okay, so like they're going on and playing up that certain sixth rangers could have this like weird goofy thing about them. So we have both the Cogs and we have Wolfbane that just disappear, and the Power Rangers are a little bit confused because they're like, well, wait a minute, like they were technically winning. Why are they all of a sudden like packing up? Why are they leaving town? It makes no sense. So we go on to have that Mondo is, or no wait, Billy at first is stating it's like, well, hey, like at the power chamber, it's like, well, hey, like what I've gone on to like figure out about what this disturbance is could possibly be something incredible. And we have Mondo and we have Clank, and they're talking about that whatever Pyramidas was, they don't state that name, but whatever this interference was, like it must be cloaked because it's kind of hard to go on. And so this is like the Phantom Ranger all over again. This sword is just cloaked, so we don't know what's going on. So we have the Rangers that are just like, okay, I think we need to go back to the power chamber and kind of ask like what had happened. So we have Billy that goes on to tell the Rangers that the Zeo energy that the Power Rangers are giving off, and the energy that, of course, is to also be with the Gold Ranger, like both of their energies is fairly similar. So more than likely that could state that the Gold Ranger and the rest of the Rangers are similar, and maybe they have the same goals. And so yeah, like that is to be really like a good substantial thing. Speaking of which, in the Mighty Morphin episode, there was also this scene where Bulk and Skull were going on and watching the triathlons, and they had this kind of fishing pole, and they had this device, and so that, of course, was some energy device that I think Zed took for his own, and we had kind of Bulk and Skull kind of talk about it, but then they ended up going under control. So I just kind of I wanted to cover that, but also like it was this quick kind of thing that it didn't really make a huge difference, but still. So Mondo goes on and talks to Sprocket, and so Sprocket is just like, well, like whatever this is a powerful new weapon, whatever it could be. So we have the Rangers that are like, well, maybe we can go on and figure out a way to like find out where the Gold Ranger is by possibly getting these sensors and putting them in certain locations. So we have Mondo that's like, well, like, I'm not going to have these Rangers go on and find this Gold Ranger just yet. I'm going to send out some Cogs. So Cogs end up arriving, and so while the fight is going on, we all of a sudden have Billy that mysteriously disappears after these sensors are to go out. And we then have Wolfsbane that reappears, and is trying to take down the Rangers. And so we then have the Gold Ranger that starts to like blur his way in and out and starts smacking people as this kind of scratchy lightning bolt like thing, as if he's weirdly enough like the Flash or something. So we finally go on and have the Gold Ranger that appears with his suit, and he's all just like this and that, and like, hey, look at me, I'm doing all these poses. Yeah, look at me, I'm strong. So we have Mondo, Clank, and Sprocket and Queen Machina all like looking on, and they're like, "Oh my god, oh my god, the Gold Ranger, man, this sucks." So, like, there's a sixth Ranger. How is there a sixth Ranger? What? So we have the Gold Ranger that goes on to use his golden power staff, which I didn't know what the name of that weapon was until now. But man, does the golden power staff look awesome. I know when I was a kid, I don't have one now. But yeah, like that weapon was pretty sweet. Eventually it would probably break, you would probably lose like one of the sides or whatever, because you'd probably be kind of like clicking the one part too often, and the pieces would become flying out, and you'd just like, yeah, here's my weapon. And so yeah, like the golden power staff was pretty sweet. So yeah, it was a cool weapon. But either way, so we of course have the Gold Ranger who goes on to fight Wolfsbane, and we have the Gold Ranger that is just killing it and just destroying a lot of things. Like, the other Power Rangers are just watching on as the Gold Ranger is just decking everybody. And we have the Rangers that it's like, hey, who is this guy? Like, man, he must be really strong. And, like, yeah, they're kind of like, might as well just kind of sit on their couch and just kind of like, hey, hey, this is great. Like, this Ranger is doing all of our heavy lifting. Well, we're just like kind of reacting to this. So we even have the Quadra Fighter that ends up like flying by and blasting, and that doesn't even do anything. So we go on to have Orbis that is to do his thing to make the monster grow moment. And so we have Wolfsbane that is now big, and so we go on to have the Rangers that are like, well, hey, like, thanks a lot, guy, but, like, we don't know who you are, but, like, we can kind of take it from here. So we have the Rangers that call for their Zeozords, not the Super Zeozords. This is just the normal Zeo Megazord. And so they call for it, they have the Zord come together, and so it seems that the Zeo Megazord just isn't enough for this one monster. We then have Tommy that calls for the Red Battle Zord. That doesn't quite seem to be enough either. So then we just have the Gold Ranger who's coming in and is just like, well, hey, like, I'm going to go on and slay this guy with Pyramidas. And I'm like, yeah, a simple Pyramid Zord, but man, was it effective. So we have Pyramidas that comes in and just has this, like, this one blast that goes on to destroy this monster. And, like, it's a simple attack, but it's very effective. And, like, just wait till they have to go on with Pyramidas and just, like, stack all these Zords, because that seems to be the one thing that the Power Rangers would have to go on and do with Pyramidas. It's just a Zord stacking thing. At some points you would go on and stack all the Zords inside Pyramidas, or you would have, like, the Zords all kind of stacked somewhere on Pyramidas, or, like, you would have to combine all these Zords together to do this whole huge goofy thing. And, like, yeah, like, they would try to just continue to combine all the Zords together, so that way they can go on and have this, like, huge merchandising thing just tied to Pyramidas, which is pretty smart, because this Zord was pretty interesting anyways. So we have Mondo that is like, hey, we gotta go on and we gotta find this Gold Ranger. We gotta corrupt him or we gotta something. We also have Zordon that is also stating the same thing, that, like, I'm sure Mondo is gonna have this agenda to try to find the Gold Ranger, so we need to find the Gold Ranger before he does, because we don't really know what side he's exactly on, even though it seems that he did go on and help us out. All of a sudden we had Billy that just appears. I guess he's like, hey man, I bathroom break. Like like, I'm sorry, like I just really had to go. I don't know. They should have wrote a better story besides Billy just going on like, well, yeah, like I was trying to find the Gold Ranger and like I don't know, my hands are just so slippery, it just slipped out of my hands. So yeah, so we end up just kind of wrapping the episode off with, of course, Billy reappearing, and then they kind of write themselves off of this episode with nothing that felt any of any like real like, oh man, like this Gold Ranger, yeah, right. So, anyways, let's go on into the Power Rangers Turbo episode, and so we go on into the beginning of this episode and come to find out that it doesn't start off with the subcrap or the subcraft. So we have, of course, Pardo with this teleportation device, and we have Divatox that takes it from him because she wants to see how this works. And so she tries to use it on Piranhatrons, but Piranhatrons start moving and dodging and duck and dipping. And so Divatox is like, well, hey, I want to try this on something. So we accidentally have Divatox that when she blasts this, it ricochets and it hits her. And so when Divatox is to be randomly on some part of this street, she wakes up and she doesn't remember who she is because I guess the blast was so significant. She now has amnesia. So we have Carlos and we have Justin, and so Carlos is talking about his date problems and is like, well, yeah, man, like I'm sure you can relate, Justin. Man, I'm sure you're just like having to go on and just push the ladies back like all the time, right? Justin's like, do you know how old I am? No, it's like that would have been the good joke, but no, they didn't go with it. So Carlos is talking about dating, and Justin's like, yeah, Carlos, your dialogue that I could care less about. But hey, like there's soccer over here. Let's go on and just kind of play with these guys. So we then have Justin who meets up with Nico. And so it's like, okay, here's the starting of this, which is going to head into the Phantom episode. So we then go on and we find Bulk and Skull that are working at Mad Mike's Pizza Parlor. And we almost have this kind of like Spider-Man Tobey Maguire scene for Bulk and Skull here, where they're going on and getting all these pizzas, and they're going to have to go on and deliver all these. So we end up having Bulk and Skull who just decide that like they don't really care for this job, that they've just decided that they're going to randomly just chuck the pizzas off of the bike and say that they were delivered, which they weren't. So we end up getting Mad Mike, who ends up getting these calls stating like, well, hey, like these pizzas haven't been delivered yet. Why are they so late? And Mad Mike is just like, well, eat a snack. So Bulk and Skull leave, and all of a sudden Divatox comes in there, and she just grabs this slice of pizza that has these huge honkin' peppers on it. And so Mad Mike is like, well, hey, like, if you're going to go on and take a slice of my pizza, honey, you're gonna start working for me. And so yeah, so Divatox is now working at this pizza joint. So we have Rygog, we have Elgar, and we have Porto that are at the subcraft, and they of course are like, well, hey, like since we have no Divatox here, like things are wonderful, like things couldn't be better. So we have three of them just kind of all like just kind of messing around and just kind of having fun. So next up, or and like we go on and have them all like decide. It's like, well, hey, like what should we eat for dinner? And they end up doing like paper rock scissors to decide who's going to go on and get the pizza. And it seems that Porto loses, so he has to go on and get this pizza. So next up, so we have Justin, Carlos, and Nico. They're all kind of playing soccer. I don't really know what Carlos is doing here, but like I guess he's like, hey man, like pass it to me, and so on and so on. So they're kind of having fun to playing soccer. So we go on to have Porto, who makes his way to this pizza joint, and when he goes on and gets all these pizzas, we have Mad Mike who says like, well, hey, like, sorry, but we were all out of raw fish heads, so like, we're just gonna give you this. And evidently, they asked for like the most burnt pizza that they could get. So we find that Carlos and Justin, as well as Nico and the rest of these kids, all make their way to this pizza joint. And so come to find out, like the kids will ask Justin, it's like, well, hey, like, so you're in high school, how was that? And Justin's like, well, evidently, like, we have Justin who's kind of like a Sheldon in a way, where he's just this genius, and he has this genius level intellect, to where he just kind of bumped several years to just kind of go fast tracking right into high school. And so kind of that's the excuse. So, and I was like, okay, so Justin actually goes to high school. It's not like that we just have Justin who just kind of is to be a Power Ranger and it all works out. So then more than likely Justin probably doesn't have to study much. And he still just aces all of his tests. So we have Porto that is to realize that the Power Rangers are there, and so he's trying to hide himself. But then he ends up going on to find Divatox working at this pizza joint. So, and also Divatox is oddly starting to eat like parts out of these pizzas and then hand them to the customers. And customers are starting to complain, so much so that Mike goes on and is complained to Divatox, and Divatox is just like, well, hey, like, I have all these pizzas in the oven, like, I'm doing my job, what else do you want? So, Mike is just like, okay, alright. So, we have Porto that runs off to talk to Rygog and Elgar, and tell them, it's like, well, hey, like, Divatox is at this pizza joint, and like we have Elgar and we have Rygog who like, well, like, what do you want me to do? Because like if the Rangers are at this pizza joint, like we're not going to go on and risk ourselves to try and get Divatox back. Like we got to distract the Rangers with something. And so we have the guys that are going on and saying, it's like, well, like Porto, like, come up with some monster, and Porto's like, well, it's not so easy. I need to have some kind of something to come up with an idea. And so they just look at the pizza box, and so Porto's like, hey, good enough. Like, we'll just go on and create Mad Mike, the pizza chef, and we have kind of a mushroom for a head, and it's kind of green and red, and kind of like the Italian flag, and it's fairly simple, but like I was like, okay, like this is goofy, it's fun, it's enjoyable. We have a monster that goes on and flings pizza, that's great. So while we have Mad Mike, the pizza chef, out on the loose, we have Rygog, Elgar, and Porto all going back to this pizza joint to convince Divatox to try to come back with them. And so we have Divatox that ends up getting so angry that she shoots these laser beams. Elgar gets this metal sheet to defend himself, and the blast goes on and deflects off this metal sheet to hit Divatox, and so she all of a sudden remembers who Elgar is and remembers everything. And then they're like, okay, we're leaving this popsicle stand. And so we have the Power Rangers that go to the power chamber because they find out that they have a new weapon. That, of course, ends up being the turbine laser. Basically, it's the version of power cannon, or whatever the cannon thing was that they would have throughout all these other seasons. That's basically this. Just this goofy black looking weapon that isn't like a combination of all their weapons together. It's just the magical cannon thing. So we have the Rangers go off and face against the Mad Mike, the pizza chef. And so also when Carlos and Justin go on to hear that the communicator had gone off, they go to the power chamber, and we find the rest of the Rangers just kind of waiting there. And so after they find out about this threat, they then go on to kind of morph and make their way to face off against Mad Mike, the pizza chef, to go on and have this pizza chef that is to start to go on and like really just toss pieces at these Rangers, and then also corrupt their vehicles called Lightning Cruiser and Storm Blaster, which was like, you know what, like, I like the whole manipulation of the car things were kind of goofy, but it also like is actually a rational thing, because when you think about it, like a pizza man does have to deliver a lot of pizzas, so why not have a corrupted car to deliver it? So it does make sense. Like I would have liked for there to have been like the same thing where like the Mad Mike can go on and like corrupt the Zords. But then again, how would you go on to defeat the monster then? But so anyways, we... After the Rangers are kind of driven to this one location, we have, of course, Mad Mike that suckers all of the Power Rangers into this colossal cooker, and they end up getting microwaved into this pizza as we start to have Mad Mike, who is tossing all these toppings in there, like onion and all these kind of goofy things. So we then have the Power Rangers that are now cooked in this pizza, and they're defenseless. So we all of a sudden have the Blue Centaurian, and I'm like, Blue Centaurian? Like, wow, like, all right. Like, we have, like, the robot, the RoboCop kind of kind of guy, and I was like, you know what, like, Blue Centaurian, like, has an awful, like, voice thing where it's kind of like, but man, like, this character probably at some point would be, like really cool if I was, like, much younger. I think when this character came out, I was like, okay, like, this character's kind of interesting, but, like, I think there was at some point with Turbo where I was just kind of like, oh, okay, this show isn't that good anymore. But yeah, so Blue Centaurian comes in, and he ends up simply defeating the corrupted vehicles, the Lightning Cruiser and the Storm Blaster, by simply kind of whipping out his thing that can control like a traffic light of sort, and and I don't remember what exactly that thing is called, but he goes on to turn the light red, and both the vehicles stop and they become uncorrupted, and so the blue Centaurian goes on. Like, was there any other colors of the Centaurian? Was there a black one? Was there a red one? Was there a green one? Were there other? Were there yellow and red ones? Like that clash uh, with the blue one? Like, were there like corrupted ones? Corrupted Centaurians? I don't know. It's so weird. So we have the blue Centaurian that blasts all around this pizza, as we of course had the Mad Mike pizza chef that was going on and getting this fork and this spoon to get ready to eat all the Rangers off of this pizza that is just on the ground. It's not on a massive plate. So we have the monster that is trying to figure out like who he should eat, and we of course have Cassie that's like, no, don't eat me. And so we have the pizza chef that's like, well, hey, like my food is disagreeing with me. So we have Blue Centaurian blast around, and so the Rangers end up breaking free from this pizza, and they end up again going with the turbine laser, and so, or they end up going to use the turbine laser, and right after that we have Divatox that goes on to torpedo and make this monster big. And I'm like, well, like, you really just didn't showcase your turbine blaster all that well, because really, like, it didn't go on to destroy this monster. So instead of like going right to like, okay, let's Turbo Megazord, instead we have the Robo Racer that comes out, and that switches to I'm assuming either warrior mode or battle mode. And so we have the Robo Racer that tries to go on and fight against this, but then we have the Turbo Megazord that ends up coming in, and it seems that they go on and kind of do this almost like duo attack, where the Robo Racer does its attack, and then we of course have the Megazord that does this kind of spinning like blade move and wipes out the Rangers. So by the end of this, we of course go on and have again Divatox with the teleportation device, and she's hoping that it's really going to work again, but it seems that again she is to go on and need test subjects, and nobody really wants to go on and do this. So we all of a sudden have Elgar, who comes in with all these pizzas and has this kind of wisecracking thing about him. So we have Divatox that just wants to use the teleportation device on Elgar, but they're like, wait. Like, give us the pizzas and then do it. So Divatox uses this device on Elgar, and he's outside in the water. It's like, hey, like, let me come back in. And we, of course, have Divatox that's just kind of upset again. And so we then go on to just go into credits, and that's how we wrap up this episode. So let me know how you felt about any of these episodes. I apologize for how long this took to do any of these. Like, to of course go on and either do 3 different episodes or just do episodes entirely. With this, it's always very difficult, and it's always very challenging to, like, how much do I go on and state? Do I mention everything? Do I kind of figure out like that I probably had forgotten a bajillion things, and so I just kind of condensed down, and whatever I mentioned stuff early that still happens in the episode anyways, and so on and so forth. So with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Bye everybody.